Okay. Whiteboard. Okay. Let me create a new whiteboard. So the function, so basically it's just one more opportunity to practice functions of using reference parameter. So look at the file function diagram here. So in this case, you are given a text, right? Which is a string. And then the function is going to just reverse, so let's just say reverse as a name. So it's going to return another text, which is also a string, but it's reversed. So reversed text. Okay. So if you use regular parameters, you're going to write a function like this: string, then reverse, and then input, which is a string, and a text. And then here, you're going to process the text and then return, right? Return something. So return whatever the result. Okay. So suppose you have variable declared as a result, and then you get the result, and then you return the result. Okay. So you have the code. You have to write the code in here. Okay. And then for this that I think we did something like this before, right? So what you need to do is to use reference parameter. So what I will do is you're going to combine this parameter input with output as one parameter and make that as a reference parameter. So then the function is not going to return anything, the void, and then say reverse, and then say ref, and then string, okay, and then say text. Okay. Okay. So how do you do that function? It's actually pretty simple, right? So you're going to just create like a maybe like a char array, right? Char and chars equals to text to char array. Char array. Okay. And then you're going to just reverse it. So just doing something to declare string result. Start with empty. And then you're going to use going to erase that. Use while loop or for loop. Let's just use a for loop. Integer I equal to 0 and I less than the chars dot length and I plus plus. Okay. And then what you need to do is just make sure that you're going to, for each character, now you're going to put into, so first character, you're going to make it as last character. Second character, you make it a second last character. So you can make a result equals to, so basically you just need to decide which one which order you want to put. So you put, if you make a chars first and then result next, and that will be original order. So I'm going to make a result first plus chars I, like that. That will make the first one into last one, because you add to the end of the existing result. And then finally, you just say text equals to result. So because text text here is a reference parameter, so you basically just go to the original place, and then here this is the new result. And there's nothing to be returned. Okay, you don't need to return anything. And that's it. That's all. That's the question number 1. Question number 2, Visual Studio project. I think that one should be similar to what we did in class, except that after you split, you're going to create a variable to just like a sum of these products. Okay, so create. So each time we split, and then you get 3 parts, right? The first part is a day, And the second part, the third part, you're going to convert into numbers, and then you multiply that, and then you add the multiplication to some kind of a sum, and then use while loop to go through that. And that finally, that would be the result that to be reported. Okay, so I'm going to move on to week 12 outline, and unless you have any questions on this one. Just let you know that exam 2 has been curved. The reason that is so slow is because we have one student who had some kind of problems with exam 2, so I have to fix that first, and then after I get average, and then we curve to like a C+ grade for average, and then that has been done already. What else? And then for this week, we have only today's class. And then Wednesday's class is canceled because of Thanksgiving break. Okay, so you enjoy your long weekend break, but to make sure that you still have one more homework to do, and the homework will be due the first Monday when you come back from Thanksgiving break. Okay, and I think you should also use this time to start the review. So what I would suggest you to do is use this long break, spend maybe like a day to go over all your old homework questions, because including multiple choices and also hands-on questions. Okay, so that way you don't have to wait until last minute to prepare for your exam. Okay, because you may have some other exams to prepare too. All right, so if you have, does anybody have questions? If not, I'm going to move on to week 12 outline. So this week, we are going to actually, this week and the week after we come back, we are going to create or develop something called a customized classes. So basically, at this point, we have been using built-in classes like a rundown, like time, data time, what else we did, and then dialogues, all those classes, all those objects have been already programmed by Microsoft for you, so you can just reuse them. But that may not be always a case. So for most business problems, we may not have those built-in classes ready for us to use. So we have to create our own classes. Okay, so we'll be learning how to do that. Okay, so let's just give you. Let me stop sharing and then go back to other screen. So let me close that. Let's start sharing the other screen.
Professor?
Yeah.
So I don't want to interrupt class, but it's saying that my extended trial for Visual Studio has expired.
Really?
Yeah, so what should I do?
I have the same too.
Extended trial. Why is extended trial? So when you download a Visual Studio from Microsoft website, they should give you like a license, the product license number. Did you put that license number in?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. Anyway, so what do you do? What after the class? What you can do? Okay. Can you follow me in the class?
Yeah, that's fine. I can try. Well, I can't access Visual Studio though.
You cannot go to Visual Studio, huh?
No.
If you let me say how does this work? So if you go to well, I think it will take a little bit time. So you need to go back to Microsoft website, the place that you downloaded Visual Studio, and then you should get your license key, and then you come back to Visual Studio. You don't have to reinstall it. You just go to Visual Studio somewhere like I think it's about or help menu. Underneath that, say enter registration key, and that place you just re-enter that key, and then you should be able to come back to reactivate your license.
Okay, I'll try.
That makes sense? Yeah. I think you have to after the class to do it. Otherwise, you're going to take at least 10 minutes to do that. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know whether, do you have access to universities? I don't know. I whether I emailed everybody or not, but I emailed some students that university has prepared like online lab computers, and that you can use that. But you don't know that you don't know how to do that, right? You have to install some kind of software to do it. So anyway, I guess it's for the limited time of class. I guess it's not time to do that. All right. Anybody else has questions? So let me tell you what we need to do. So basically, in today's class, we are going to create something called custom classes. Just brief, just to give you some basic idea here, okay, what a custom classes is, okay? So yes, you can just think of a custom classes as a template to create objects that will be able to do things that you want to do. That's one perspective. Second perspective is that is a way to reorganize your code. So remember, at this point, so far we have learned how to write individual commands, like declare variables, put values into variables, okay? And also we can use loops to save the typing of some code, okay? And also we learned how to organize your code into a module called functions or methods, right? So today we're going to learn how to create a higher level abstraction. So basically a higher level of structure so that we will organize your code, put functions, methods inside, and that is the class. Okay, and then the program or all programs we develop is just a bunch of classes. So for example, when you design a form, the form is a class. Okay, and then we'll create like a dialogue or that, or those are classes. All right, and those will be inside so-called references. And then we'll create a custom classes to put functions inside, and those will be also classes. So at the design time, a program just a bunch of those classes, class 1 plus class 2 plus class 3, so on and so forth. Okay, so that is so mental image of what a program is. Okay, that is true for Java, for C++, C++, C#, for all object-oriented programs. A program is just a bunch of classes. Okay, and then from running perspective, when you're actually running the code, in that case, a program is just a bunch of running objects, commanding each other, collaborating with each other. And those objects are created out of the classes. Okay, so we have learned how to create objects out of classes from the entire semester, right? So for example, data time, my data time equals to new data time. So that basically my data time is object, okay? So basically the program, running program is just consisting of all those kind of objects, all right? So today we are going to learn how to create our own classes. And from that, we create our own objects from the class. So we use the class as template to create objects. Okay, so follow me. Let's just create a brand new example for today. So Visual Studio. Okay, so let's just create a new project. And then we can still use the same template, forms template. And then go to next. So let's just create that will be my ninth example, exercise. And I will save that to my desktop again. Okay, and then you don't need to change anything else. And then press create a button. All right, so we are now going to say this is a class, okay? So this form, so basically, how can you tell? If you look at the file forms.cs, and that is class, okay? And this class actually has two parts. One is partial class, actually. There's a design part, and also there's a code part. So I put this aside. So this is a class, and also there's another program.cs there's another class. Okay, so this program so far has 2 classes. How do we create our own classes? Now, if you go to project, everyone follow me, okay? So if you go to add a class, and that is a place to add your own custom classes, okay? Suppose I want to create a class called a dog class. Okay, and then press add. So now you have a dog class, and this is a project, same project as before for other forms. And then this is a class. This so far is just empty, does not have anything. We are going to fill in the blanks. Okay, so at this point, I will make that as a public. Why public? Because if you don't make a public, then this dog class cannot be used by other classes. For example, in a form, if you want to call a function inside this class, then you have to make sure that this class is public. Otherwise, when you go back to the form cannot see this class.
Professor?
How do you
Yeah.
add a class? Again, you right
Yeah, I was
click.
gonna ask
I cannot hear your questions clearly. Say that again.
Where do you right click to add a class?
Oh, just go to project menu, and then add a class here. So let's do it again, okay? So suppose this time I will add a class called a student. Okay, press add. So now we have another class called a student. Let's change that to public. Okay, so you can add more classes if you want, just to keep on doing that. So make sure the name follow the convention. The class name must be started with capital letter. It's one word, of course. Okay, there's class, public small letter, public, of course, small letter. Okay, so now we can go back to our dog class. Where's dog one? This one. So this one has just, this, we are going to create a custom class called dog. Okay. All right, so what should be inside of the class? There are basically just 2 types of things you can put in. And the first type, so we are going to use this template to create a new object called dog object. For example, your puppy, my puppy, or that, right? So those dog will have properties, have attributes, right? So for example, they will have a breed, they have a name, they have an age, all that. Okay, so those things will be declared as global variables. So for each global, so those will be called data members. So I'm just called a comment here, data members here. Okay. So what are data members for dog? So let's just say each dog should have a name. So that is a string. So let's just call that name. Okay. And each dog also have a birth date, right? So I'll make that a data time. And then that's b date. Okay. And each dog also have what else? Have a weight. So that's double weight. Okay. So those are data members. Make sense? And then the second part will be called behavior members. Behavior members. So those are the functions or methods. Okay, so there are 3 types of behavior members. I'm going to talk about just regular functions first, and then we'll talk about other special type of behaviors. The regular type will be just functions. For example, each dog, when you create a dog, the dog should be able to bark, right? So let's say how dog will bark. Dog will bark some kind of words out. So in that case, it's going to be say string as output, and say bark as a name. Okay, there's no need for any parameters. Okay, and then curly brackets. Okay, and then say return. Okay, and then say wolf, wolf, wolf. Okay, so suppose that's the hot dog that you is going to be bark. Okay, and of course you can have some other meaningful functions. For example, dog knows his birthday, right? So dog should be able to tell you your age. Okay, so of course I'm just just imagine that dog can talk. Okay, so the dog is going to give you age, tell your age. So tell age. Okay. Okay. So for dog to tell you the age, what does dog need to tell you? I will need to know. So what are the inputs? What are the parameters? So the dog should know his birth date, and dog should know what is current time. Dog should know the current time because current time is data time. The system knows that, right? And what about the birth date? Dog knows his birth date. Each dog has an attribute called a birth date. So in this case, you do not need any parameters. And this is actually called data flow reductions. I'm going to comment here. Data flow reduction. So what does it mean? Is that if any inputs that the object already know, for example, in this case, dog knows his birth date, you do not need to make that as parameters. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to curly brackets and then trying to calculate age. Okay, so how do we calculate age? So I'm going to use timestamp, right? Timestamp TS equals to data time and now minus date, birth date. Okay, so that is the this date. Okay, so basically this each dog knows his birth date and just use this current time minus that. So that's why you do not need the parameters. Okay, and then after that you just simply calculate age. So years. So age will be equal to TS days divided by 365. Okay, we'll do that, and then say return age. There we go. So then this dog is going to be very, very smart. He or she can tell you his age. Okay, does it make sense? So this will be just a regular behaviors. So those behaviors just like functions. The only thing that is different from the functions that we have been creating is that when you need to use data, that data is already known by the object. You do not need to make that as parameters, and that's because data flow reduction. Data flow reduction. Okay, so you do not need to put extra parameters. Okay. On the other hand, if you also similarly, if you need to just say have a function to change data in here, then you do not need to make that as output. Let me just create one example here. Okay, so suppose I need to change name, change dog name function to change dog name. So the function is going to be not return anything, so it's void, and then change name. All right, and then when you change the name, of course, you need to know what is the new name, right? Do you need to give the new name? And that is a parameter. Okay, so that is string new name. Okay, but this function is going to take this input, but us will not return any values out. Reason because we are just simply changing this attribute, changing this value. So we will say name equals to new name. So that's a simple function that we are able to have the dog. So you can say dog, change your name, change it to this name. Okay, then the dog will do that. Okay, and I will show you how we do that. Okay, so we're going to go to forms and then do to just call this function create object and then call those functions. Okay. Now at this point, before I introduce other two behaviors, I want to introduce a concept of encapsulation. Encapsulation principle. Okay. So what the principle entails is that whether you should put like a public or private in front of those functions or data members. Okay, there's behavior member. Okay, so if you look at collapse, that's just a behavior member. Okay, and then the body is hidden inside. Okay, so should I make those private or public? So then encapsulation principle, it states that for all the data, you should make them as private. You should not allow other classes to directly access these data members. So I will make them as private. Putting private in front of each one. Private. Okay. And then what about functions? For functions that you are going to be used internally, you can keep them as a private. By default, they will be private. Okay, by default, they will be private. If you do not put a public or private in front of it, that will be private. Okay, but if all the functions you anticipate the functions are going to be used by other classes, then you make them as a public. So I will change this as public. So that we accept as some kind of temporary function. The functions is going to be used inside somewhere here, inside of this class, then make them as a private. Otherwise, just change it to public. And why do we have this principle? The point of this principle is that you will make your code to be more manageable down the road. So in the future, if you're going to change your code for some reason, then your change is going to be local to this one place, one class. You do not have to go to many classes to find out the places that you need to make changes. So the code will be localized. Okay, all code change. This benefit will be localized and manageable. Okay, so at this point you're learning how to write a code. You probably don't appreciate that, but in the future, just imagine you write your code, very complicated code, and then 5 years later, you're trying to go back to make changes, and all of a sudden you may feel that I don't know what does it mean here. What this code is trying to do, So if you have to go to many places to make changes, it's going to be disaster. Okay, so this encapsulation principle is going to help you to make your code to be more manageable, maintenance to be more manageable down the road. And this is one of the 3 principles. Other 2 principles are called inheritance and polymorphism. I'm going to list them, but in this class, we are not going to talk about those, okay? The next principle is called polymorphism. Polymorphism. Okay, so those are 3 so-called 3 pillars of OO programming. 3 pillars of OO programming. Okay, let's just give you some kind of knowledge. They're just that's what a company that's the word programming word is talking about. Okay, so just make sure that you know those terminologies. And so now we have one type of behavior members construct. So what are the 2 other ones? 2 other ones. The first one is called properties. Okay, so look at here, properties. We have all this data as a private. Then the question is, what if other places, other classes like forms need to access or change this data? How do we do that? Well, to do that, in Java programming, that would be called data accessors. Here we are using C#, we are using properties equal to data accessors in Java. Okay, so those properties will help you to expose this private data members so that they will be accessible by other classes. Okay, so how do we create the properties? So first of all, the property is going to be public. Okay, because otherwise it will be still private, and there's no point of using property. And then the property will have type. The property will have type same as a variable. Suppose I'm going to create a property for others to access this name variable, name data. So I will change. The data type is going to be string. So I will change to make that a string here. Okay, and then you need to give a name for that property. So the name typically I will make this variables are small letters, but the properties I will make them capital letters. So I will say name. Okay, so then you will know that they are corresponding to each other, and you don't have to, but it's just convention. So variable name, small letter name, and then the larger property name is going to be like a capital letter name. Okay, and the property, and then we're going to so name, string name. Okay, so now we are going to write actual code to to set the properties here. This name, remember, this property does not take any parameters, so you should not have anything like that, okay? So no parameters, just I'm not sure this is resolved or not, but we'll try. Okay, so inside you're going to have two sections for this property. One section is going to be so-called get section. Okay, and then the second function is set section. Okay, the property has two sections, and the meaning is clear. So get section, that section will give you code for other forms to read this name data, read this. Okay, so in that case, if unless we have something complicated, otherwise we just simply return the value of the name variable, whatever inside this variable, just return it. So that's get section. Okay, and what about set? Set section is allow other forms, other classes to change this variable value. So for that, if the simplest case will be say name equals to value. This value is keyword. Okay, this keyword, you see the blue word, keyword. So whatever value that other forms is going to change to, and that will be the value used to change this name variable. Okay, so that is a completed property for name variable. And let's do it again for let's say, suppose I want to be able to change birth date, to set birth date also. So I'm going to create another property, public, and then that's data time, right? Data time, and then just say birth date, capital letter B. Otherwise, everything else will be just like a variable. So this is going to have two sections: get section, okay, and then set section. Something like that, okay? There's curly brackets. And for get section, we are going to just simply return this birth date value, birth date, okay? So just say return B date, okay? And for set section, just simply B date equals to value. So that will be simplest case. And just let you know that it does not have to be simple like this. Sometimes the property value property may have to be re-expressed into a different format. So let me just try to make a case here. So here we do not have a dog's gender. Let's just create one more variable called gender. Okay, private, and then gender. Okay. Suppose I have another variable called gender, and now let's just try to say that if the dog is a female dog, then the dog will not tell you her birth date. But if it's a female dog, is a male dog, then the dog will be able to tell. So in this case, for the set, for the get properties, I'm going to change that, make that a little bit more sophisticated. Okay, so what I will do is, okay, I will say if the attribute gender is equal to female, okay, and then the function is going to just return, just say throw new exception, okay. The function that say I cannot tell you, okay, and else, there you can just say return the birth date. Okay, so you say that in this case we are not just it's not just simply return whatever variable value. You can actually pre-process it and return it in a certain format or something. But in this case, we are going to check, see whether the dog is the male or female. If dog gender is a female, then the dog will say, no, I cannot tell you. And if the dog is male, then male dog will probably don't care about age, right? So probably, yeah, my birthday is here. Get that? So same thing with set. You can also use some other code to process that. So this is just an example showing that the properties can be just coded more complicated than the simple way. Okay. So anyway, that simple way is good enough for now. So let's create one more. So this time let's just do it together. You should not just look at just me, look at my typing. You can just write it yourself. Okay. Create a property for weight. Okay. So just make sure that you are put in the right place. Okay. So here, this is a class, and this is a function, just like another function. And then I'm going to put a parallel place here, public, and then double weight. Okay, curly brackets, and then say get, and that so simply return weight. So you understand the small letter representing the variable here. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, when you put the properties and you capitalize the first letter of the variable in the properties, does that mean it's like different than the actual data members that we're setting at the beginning of the public class?
Yeah, that's correct. So that would be different from actual data variables.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. The weight equals to value. Okay. So there we go. So this is the photo parameter with it. All right. So everybody finish it? Okay. So those are called properties, and there's a second type of behavior members, and that will help you. That those behavior, the properties will allow other places, other classes or forms to be able to read these variable values or change these variable values. Okay, because by encapsulation principle, they are private, right? They're not supposed to directly access those variables, but they can now use those properties to do it. Does that make sense? Okay. So final type of behavior members are constructors. So how do we interpret what is a constructor? So you can think of a constructor as a factories to create, to actually manufacture objects. Okay. So you have a class, and then you can now use the class to create object, right? And the actual job is done by those constructors. Okay, so that is just in concept. Let me just put a period here. Put semicolon here. And what is exactly the constructor will do? The constructor is used to initialize those global variables. Here. Okay, so. And functionally, it can initialize global variables. So what does it mean? It means here, so when you have when you create a new object, okay, from this class, and that object is going to have a name. It's going to have a gender, going to have a date, time, and they're going to have a this weight, right? And these constructors will help you to initialize those values, initialize those global variables. Okay, so we can create, for example, let's just say I want to create a constructor like constructor to initialize all these values, all these variables. Okay, so we have to have a name, have a gender, have a birth date, have a weight. Okay, so the constructor is, of course, will be public. Okay, and the constructor does not return anything, so there'll be no need for things like a void or string or double in front of function name. In front of function name. That's just like a property. Well, property does have something like the data type. Okay, each property has data type. Yeah? But a constructor does not have anything like that, and no void either. Okay, simply you just put name of the constructor. The constructor name will be same as this class name, and that is for special properties of a constructor. So basically, you're going to say dog, And then the constructor does have a parameters, so you need to put a parenthesis around it, okay? And then curly brackets. And then here inside, you can just initialize, use, how say what's the name, what is the birth date, what is gender, all that. So let's just say I will give special parameters for that. So name is going to be say N, okay? And then birth date is going to be data time, right? Data time. And then just say B, okay? And then weight is double, so let's say W. And then gender is string, right? String, let's say gender here, okay? Suppose I use this constructor to initialize those variables. So this is how we do it, because we are given those parameters. We are given those parameters, and then we just say name is equal to N, semicolon. And then B date equals to B. Okay, so whatever as input, you use that input to initialize your variables. And then weight will be equal to W. And then gender will be equal to G here. Okay, so you see that the function is pretty simple. This kind of function is very simple. The constructor displays three special characteristics. First of all, there's no return. Okay, there's no void or double in front of the function, in front of the function, yeah. And then the name of the function is same as class name. So the class is dog, and then the name of the constructor is also going to be dog. And then the constructor can have parameters, unlike properties. Parameters does not have parameters, right? Properties does not have parameters, but here constructor does. Okay, constructor, now you can use those input parameters to initialize all your global variables like here. Okay, and this is so-called a non-default constructor. Non-default constructor. Okay, so you can have a class, and if you do not create any constructors, then there will be default constructor created automatically for you. So what the default looks like? And the default is going to be like this. So let me put that first. Okay, default constructor. Default constructor, of course, is going to have a public, and then dog name of the constructor same, but default constructor will not have any parameters. Okay, will not have any parameters. Just simply dog, public dog, and no parameters. And what does it do? Well, you can do a lot of things. You can, for example, set up name equals to some kind of empty name, okay, and the B date equals to, for example, new, just say data time now. Data time now is the current time, okay, and the weight, just say equals to 0, and gender equals to, for example, let's make a default as a male or female, whatever. If you think female is default, that's fine too. So you can use default constructor to initialize something pretty much arbitrarily, okay? So this is default constructor, okay? Now, if you do not create any constructors, say suppose I don't have any constructors, then what is the constructor will be assumed by the constructor. How then this class is going to create objects? Well, in that case, a default one which look like this will be created. Dog, no parameters, and also no code. So basically, the code is just empty. So there's nothing in there. So this kind of constructor will be assumed by default if you do not create anyone. Does that make sense? So this will be default constructor. In this case, there's no code will be assumed. So the class will use this one to create new objects as a factory. We use this constructor as new objects to create new objects. Okay. And now this is the first one. So if you do not have a constructor defined, then this will be assumed. So now let's get it back to the original one. So now if you create a non-default constructor like this, if you create something like this, then you do have to have a default constructor first. Otherwise, your code is not going to compile. So if I compile this time, I get an error message. Okay, so you do have to have a default constructor if you have a non-default to exist. So let me write that first. Okay, so let me write that must exist if before creating or non-default. So this is kind of like a programming rule, okay? Or you can think this is a it's just a requirement for the constructor. Okay, so this is second feature about a constructor. Third feature about a constructor, you see that this constructor have the same name, right? So this is actually overloading that, you know, if you look at a signature, this signature is not the same as this signature, right? So this is okay. These are over two overloaded constructors. Okay, and you, of course you can create other constructors. Suppose I create another constructor that just initialize name. So I will just do something like that as a public, and then dog. Okay, and then just say I will just initialize name only. Okay, then name equals to n. Then what about other parameters? Other parameter, there's no data to be initialized, to be used to initialize. So you can assume in anything, you can, or you can just leave them empty. That will be fine too. So those other variables will be still uninitialized. So this is a constructor that partially initialize variables or data members inside the class. Okay. So in summary, to create a new class, basically you just say go to project, add a class first, okay? Make sure that you change that to public. And then next, you're going to list parameters, list data members. So those are just say when you create an object, the object should have those kind of data, right? So those objects, you know, will be, those data will be listed as private or global variables or private data variables here, okay? Global just means that these variables will be accessible by all functions inside this class. Okay, but in terms of the access scope, it is private because other classes cannot access those variables. Okay, and then in terms of behavior member, there are three types. You have regular parameters, and then you have for regular parameters, just make sure that data flow reduction. Okay, if anything. That data, you already have data, then you do not need to make them as a parameters, as inputs, okay? But if besides those, if you still need other parameters, like this, for example, changing name, I don't need a new name, right? You still need to use that as a parameter. You still need that as inputs, okay? And then the second type of behavior will be properties that will allow other classes to access those values and change those values, so on and so forth. Okay, and then finally we have constructors. The constructor will help to initialize those global variables. All right, so there we go. So this is how we create a class. You can let's just do something quickly with second class, student class, and then we go to the form to try and use those classes. Okay. So first, let's say student, each student is going to have a student name, right? So private student ID, so that would be string SID, okay? Semicolon, private string, and then student name, right? And then there's the name, okay? And then private string major, okay? And then private, let's just make one more, just say birth date, okay? So admission date, so data time, and then admit date. Okay. So there we go, there you go. So those are data variable, those data members, and then let's try to create some behavior members, okay? So what I'm going to do is create the first one that will help us to change a major, okay? To change a major. So we're going to say void public, okay? Public first, void change major, okay? So in order to change a major, then of course you need to tell what is new major, right? So that will be string and new major, okay? That's a parameter, and then inside the function, the code is going to be simple. That's a string. That's string. Okay. and then major. So that this function is simply change this major equals to new major. There we go. Okay. All right, now let's create one more function. So this time I'm going to create a function that will return the information about the students. Okay, so let's just say get student information. So that is going to return some kind of text, so which is a string. Okay, let's say get student info. Okay, what is student info you need to get? I just create something that say will return student ID, student first name, student name, major, and also admission date. Okay, so I'm going to create just like a sentence. So all these values will be known to this function. So therefore, I do not need any parameters. Does it make sense? Because each student knows his student ID, his name, his major, his admission date, right? So they're going to just simply nothing to be as input. So simply return, okay? Return something like say student student ID, okay? I'll put colon here. So let's just create a JavaScript notation object. So I'm going to put curly brackets here, okay? And then plus. So students in database class just learned how to what is JSON, right? We are going to learn JSON in the next semester in the data system integration class. So if you have not taken database class, should be okay. Does not matter. So now I'm going to put that student actual value, which is SID, okay? And then I need a comma, right? So I'm going to put a double quotes and then comma here. So now I'm going to put the next value, which is SName, colon, and then plus the actual value SName, okay? And then I need a comma again, so plus double quotes, comma, and then next key value. Next key will be major, so major, and then double quote colon, and then plus actual value, which is the major. Okay, and then you need a comma again, so there will be double quotes, comma, and then we need to have another one, so add date as a key value, date, and then colon. Then we plus what? Plus actual value, which is admin date. Okay, admin date. And there we go. And then we just need to close it. Close with another curly brackets, double quotes. Okay, semicolon. So basically, this is going to return like a JSON object notation. Okay, return a student object, student information. Okay, so then you just you can create other functions, so let's just create one property. Okay, let's just create one property for like a major here. Okay, so let's just say public. The property type is going to be string, and the property name is going to be just capitalize the variable name. Okay. And then say get section, which is simply just return major, the variable value, and the set section. Curly brackets, and then say var major equals to value. Okay, so that it will be the property. Just so you can do that for other variables. All right, and now let's also create a constructor. So let's create a default constructor first. Default constructor public. The name of the constructor is going to be same as the class name, and no parameters. And then we can just skip the code, no code also. So that will be default constructor assumed if you don't have any constructors, okay? And the second, I'm going to create a constructor which is non-default. So that will be student also. And then for each student, we are going to have SID, right? So I'm going to say that's a string S, okay? And then on name, so let's just say also N here. And then major, which is string, so let's just N here. And then finally, data time, which is admin date, let's just say A. I think I misspelled string here. Okay, so I'm going to have 4 parameters, 4 inputs to initialize all variables. First of all, SID equals to S, okay, and then S name will be equals to N, okay, and then measure equals to M, and then finally add the validate will be equals to A here. So there we go. So that we'll have a constructor that you can initialize all global variables. All right, and now let's try to see. We have about 15 minutes left. So in the last 15 minutes, let's see how can we use those custom classes in our code. Okay, does everybody follow me? Anybody has questions at this point? Okay, now let's go back to the forms design view. So what I'm going to do, let's say I will create maybe a text box, create a text box, and then create a button, and then use text box. Let's just use let's try to use a dog object and a student object, okay, student class. So I will just create a text box. I don't know what is used. I don't know what the use of that text box for now. I will just create a couple of text boxes here, maybe 2, 3. Okay, so let's say first text box. Let's call that txt_a. txt_a. Okay. And then let's create a second text box. So the point is just show you how we are going to use those, functions, okay? How to use those classes. So the second one, okay. And then let's just say txtb, okay. And then let's create a button. Okay, so if we need to create auto text boxes, then we'll come back. So just for now, I will just create 2. So btn, just say I'm going to call the class, create a class, and then use the class to do things. So that's the main point. So we'll just say call class, okay? Call class. And then just say name of the class, name of the button, say call class. Of course, this is just demonstration. You can name that in some other meaningful way. So let's just try to call dog class first, and ask a dog class to do something. Okay, and then we'll do student class next. Okay, so let's double click on this button. Okay, so we are going to write a code in here so that we will be using dog class to do something. So what do we want? So let's just say I want a dog class to be able to bark and also tell his age. Okay, so what do we do? So first of all, we need to create a dog object, so my puppy. So remember this dog that you just created, now it's available to you, okay? Because you made that as public. If you did not make that as public, then you will not be able to see it here. Equals to new, okay? And dog, this constructor, and the parentheses. Now you see that you have 3 different overloaded constructors. First one does not do anything, and the second one give you a name here. And let's use second one, okay? Let's use second one, so that would be just a name. So we need to provide a name here, so how do we get that name? So let me just stop here, and then we'll come back to here, okay? So let's just get a name. So prepare for input, string, say, my dog name, okay? Dog name, this name is equal to txta.text, okay? So suppose the first text box will give us dog name, okay? And then we'll use that to call this constructor. So let me do it again. So just dog parentheses. I'm going to use a second overloaded versions, which will give you the name. So I'll just put my dog name as input. So now you see that this dog we have a name, right? But it has no birth date or not. But now let's say I want a dog to be able to tell to bark. Okay, so what do I do? So I'm going to say the bark. Remember, so say my puppy, sorry, my puppy dot bark. Now, if you put parentheses here, it will tell you that this function is going to return something, return a string, and also there's no input here, right? So you're going to declare variable string as a result, which is a message, okay, message equals to my puppy dot bark. Okay, so now you can ask a dog. So the dog will bark, and then you will, let's just say, put the message in the second box. txtb dot text will be equal to message. There we go. Okay, so now this function is pretty simple. Just return, just simply bark, right? And but it does give you the basic idea of how to create object. Okay. And how to call the functions that object has. Okay, so the function is bark. So now is call the function. Okay, so if you want to try it, it should be easy. Okay, so let's just put a name here. Let's say dog is Snow White. Okay, and then call function, and then woof woof. So this is function call, right? That. Okay. And now let's comment this code, and I'm going to call student function, student class. Okay. Okay. So this time I want this this object to the student object to get student information and then put into second box. And also I'm going to use the first one to have a name also. So let's create an object first, okay? So I'm going to say student, and say that is just a Lisa, okay? Equals to new student. So this time I have two overloaded constructors. So the second one will require you to have inputs for student ID and the name and the major and also admission date, everything. Let's just use the second one. Hold on. Let me just make up something. Let's use second version and make up something here, okay? So let's just say student ID is some kind of thing. So let's say 1111111, okay? Double quotes. And then what about the student name? Let's just say that is Lisa Smith. Okay. And then what about major? Let's just say major is MIS. Okay. And then finally, admission date. So let's just make up admission date here. So I will use let's convert. Okay. Convert to data time. So I will put some kind of a date so put inside double quotes. That would be say December 12th, 2019 as admission date. Okay, so at this time I just hard code all those input parameters. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want this Lisa to do something to, for example, to get student information, okay? And I will put that inside, the second text box. Okay, so if you type Lisa dot get student info here, okay, on the parentheses, and immediately will tell you that this function is going to return string. You see that the string here, right? And also there's no inputs here, no parameters. So you need to prepare variable for inputs, okay? So let's say that's a string, and let's say that's info, okay? Info equals to, and then call this function. All right, and now let's try to display the result. So let's say txt dot text is equal to info. Okay. There we go. And now if you look at, if you test it. Okay. So let's call this function. We do not need to type anything, I believe. So call the function, and then immediately you see that, and you see this JSON notation here. So let's try to make this bigger. Let's try to make the text box bigger so that you can see things better. So I am going to make this into multi-lined here. Okay, and then make it a bigger box. So you see what the Java notation, JSON notation looks like. Okay, if you have not taken any you don't know that yet. So let's call the function again. So this is JSON. Okay, so basically this is a document. The document consists of a list of key value pairs. So key value. Okay, or actually you should put somehow you need to put a value. You put a double quotes around that. So let's just put a single quote around it. So let's do that. Let's go back to the student class, and for value, we actually, so if you want to have double quotes, you have to put 2 double quotes in here. So each double quote have, so this is text, right? So around that you have to have double quotes from it, double quotes begin, double quotes end. But since you already have double quotes, okay, so the way to solve that problem is you can just put 2 double quotes. It's 2 single quote. Okay, so if you use single quote, then there'll be no problem. So let's just try the 2 double quotes here. Okay. Then here, 2 double quotes also. Okay, and then here, there's also text, so 2 double quotes, and then double quotes. And major is also text, so double quotes. And then here, double quotes. Okay. Did I do something wrong? Oh, what time is it? So let's just do a single quote for now. Okay, I think I do not have time to go back to fix the errors here. So single quote, that will be easy. Single quote, and single quote, the single quote here. Okay, and this one single quote, the single quote here. Okay, and automation date. That actually should make it like a format, some kind of date. So let's just stop here, and then let's run it again. Okay, so this time, say we go to the student class and make changes, and I do not need to change anything else, right? Do not need to change anywhere else. So that's basically because of a localization of code. So here, now you see that the key ID, student ID, value, key value, and then post date. Okay, so there we go. That is how we can call, execute or access, use the class to create objects, and then use objects to run the functions we created. So this class you created for student, just like a template, and use that template to create objects, and those objects will be able to run all those functions you have. Okay, all these functions can be executed by those objects. All right, so you understand that this is how the class is organizing the code. So we're not talking about individual variable declarations, individual assignment, all that. We are talking about how do we organize your code into high-level structure that is called a class. Okay, so we learned how to create individual functions before, and now we put the functions inside the class. Okay, and then all the functions must belong to a class, belong to some classes. Okay, so general rule is this. Okay, so how do you know that which function should be put into which class? So basically, this general rule. These functions should be there to process the data in those classes. So for example, student class have student ID, student name, major, all that, right? So all the classes should be related to those variables, should be related to how to process those data. Okay, and that is just simple rule for governing how do you allocate the functions into classes. It's not an easy thing to know, but we are just learning how to create classes. So this requirement is pretty low. Just make sure that for your homework, I think, let me look at the homework. I think you just need to do something that as specified. So I already tell you what, so let me look at exam homework question in the end. So this homework will be due the Monday after Thanksgiving break. So actually, we did not finish this node yet. There's one comprehensive example which we'll do like a flying balloon example, and that we don't have time to do that. So probably we need to use one more class to do that. And then let me check, see whether homework is doable. I think it should be doable. Okay, so let's say homework, you have 2 questions. First one is to create the employee class on paper, such that it has those type of things, the properties. So that one definitely is doable, right? It's just like what we did with student class. Second one is to create account class, such that each account has account number, checking, savings type, and then balance. Okay, and then create the properties. That is doable. And then create a method to withdraw, reduce balance. Okay, so those are doable. And then create a form with text boxes for each of the account. And then you just need to create a list of view, so that every time we create a new account, you add those account into list of view. So I think your homework is still doable. So basically, without the second part of lecture note number 12, and you can do this homework. So homework will be due on Monday after Thanksgiving. All right. Let me see whether anybody have questions at this point. I will stop recording for now.